They say if you superhero pose, it gives you confidence. I'm gonna just soak it up for a little bit. Before I get started, I would like for all of you guys to do a practice with me that I do with all my kids. It gets us all on the same vibe and it puts us all in the same space. We're gonna take a deep breath on 3, and then let it out real slow. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Uno más. 1, 2, 3. Let's do it. The original Superman movie, Sliders, Groundhog's Day, Quantum Leap, Doctor Who, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and of course, the classic and my personal favorites, Back to the Future, 1, 2, and 3. What do all these movies and shows have in common? My fellow nerds know, I'm sure, but for the rest of you, time travel. Yes, today I am here to talk to you all about time travel. But don't worry, you won't need a phone booth or a Stargate. You won't even need a DeLorean traveling at 88 miles per hour, equipped with a flux capacitor and powered by 1.21 gigawatts of energy. All you will need, you already possess, because you are a teacher, and teachers are time travelers. Teachers are masters of going back in time, remembering the people and lessons from the past, bringing them into the future, bringing them into the present, and changing the future. Time travelers. For a moment, if you would, I would ask you to journey back into my past so I can tell you what's brought me to this present. I was born and raised in the greatest city in the world, Aurora, Colorado. I was blessed to have 2 of the best parents any child could ask for. They loved me unconditionally, and they supported me in any and all ways that they could. My parents worked extremely hard to be able to provide me and my brother with a middle-class lifestyle in which we wanted for naught. This is what made it all the more puzzling why, by the 2nd grade, I was seen as such a problem in school. Daily removals from class. Nowadays, they would call them refocuses. Back then, they called it, get the hell out of my class and either go in the hallway or next door. You see, because I had such great parents, my reading and writing skills were past some of my classmates. So I would finish my work lickety-split. And then my bored 8-year-old mind decided it was time to mess with anyone or anything until I got refocused. Well, this became a problem, a big, big problem. My parents were getting phone calls from school and having to visit more often than they would have liked. You see, I think my 2nd grade teacher forgot she was a time traveler. She forgot to go to the past and remember the lessons from when she was young and from when she struggled and was bored or just in a hell-raising mood. And she wanted me to be somebody else's problem. So what was the solution? according to my school, I needed a psychological examination. So there I was, 8 years old, sitting in front of a psychiatrist once a week for a couple of months, answering questions, completing tasks, until the end result. They told me I had ADHD. And the solution? Medicate me. If I was in the second grade in 2011, I would have been one of 6.4 million children diagnosed with ADHD. And I would have been a part of the 69% whose ADHD was treated with medication. Then, like now, I was given drugs, like so many misunderstood students, kids, 4 to 17. And so began 7 years of mind-numbing medication. It made me feel like a zombie when I was at school, and I had to fight restless nights of sleep when I was at home. Now, before you start your woes yous, I still loved life. I still loved life because of all the love and support that I got at home. And I still had tons of friends. The funny thing was, a lot of my friends and I had to make the same stop on the way to lunch at the nurse's office to get our medication. Let's fast forward a bit to my 7th grade year. In the 7th grade, I met an exceptional time traveler, Mr. G. Oh, a social studies teacher. And Mr. G changed my entire life. Mr. G was a successful time traveler because he changed my future. It was in his class that I decided that I wanted to be a social studies teacher. He traveled his life, his influence, traveled with me into the future and planted the seed that would go on to become my life's work. Mr. G made me feel like it was okay to be the weird, what I thought was super cool, nerdy person that I was. He listened to me, he understood me, and number one, he knew I didn't need to be medicated. So let's fast forward now to the present. I teach social studies, just like Mr. G, in Denver, Colorado, and I love it. I love it more than anything on this earth. I breathe it. And today, I time travel often, back to those days of old, and pull lessons from back then into my present day classroom. I time travel back to my kindergarten years, and I remember all the lessons of love my kindergarten teacher taught me, because she made me feel like one of her own kids. And now, I make sure I put love first in my present day classroom. I time travel back to the 2nd grade, and I remember that teacher, and I bring back those lessons of misunderstanding to my present day classroom. So now I make sure I overstand my students, where they come from and who they are, before I make judgments and actions that could change and alter their lives. I most definitely bring back lessons from Mr. G. And today I make sure my students know that it is absolutely fine to be exactly who you are. And no matter who that is, I will love you regardless. And I could go on and on. I could go on to talk about the lessons from nerding out that I got from my avid teacher, Mr. Roundtree. And now, me and my kids nerd out all the time. From sneakers, comic books, sports, and yes, even heartthrobs. And the best part is, we all get to be experts. I time travel back to the most exceptional time traveler I've ever met, the most influential, the Miss Stephanie Rossi, who taught me the greatest lesson I'll ever learn about teaching, and that was to talk to my students. And I mean me and my students talk. They blow me away constantly with their ability to analyze and dig deep into material. We get mad together when we look at history and wonder how the world could let such things happen. We cry at the beautiful moments and the tragedies, and we laugh. Oh, you best believe we laugh. Now, this time-traveling thing is not just a one-way street to the past. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have to journey into the future. As a matter of fact, as teachers, it is not our job, it is our charge to provide our students with the lessons that are going to influence their future. So I ask you, what from your classrooms are going to journey into the future and onto the stages of your students' lives? What from your math, science, English, PE, foreign language, and all the other subjects that we teach, what lessons are your students going to take into the future? Mr. G may not know it, but his lessons from 20 years ago have traveled with me throughout my life and onto this very stage. And it feels good. I don't know about you, but I am proud, so proud of every single one of my students. And I'm even more proud of their diversity of interest. I love seeing my students now, some of them college students. Oh, can you believe it? Adults. My students are now in college studying to become pilots, doctors, nurses. They're in the special forces. I have a student who is studying to become a dentist. And not just any dentist, a dentist to people who couldn't otherwise afford to go to the dentist. Oh. So where will your lessons travel? What will you do? What seeds can you plant in your students that get to journey through this infinite space and time? Let me caution you. This time-traveling thing, just like in all the movies and all the shows, it's a cautionary tale, right? What we do can create and can destroy. But I say this, don't fear it. Embrace your inner Marty McFly. And as teachers, let us journey into the past, to the present, and teach like our futures depend on it. Thank you.